Thank you so much for having me, and especially after your lunch. I'm here, and I will be stopped after 5 minutes, but I'm hoping that this will open out conversation and that I will be able to give a lot of contextual stuff. So I'm interested in young people as an asset. We often talk, particularly in the world of intersectional social harms that we tackle, we talk about problems a lot. It's all very negative. It's the sticky topics. It's what the young people are facing, how they're navigating, and what we need to do. So we're interested in how we switch that over and involve young people throughout and see them as an asset through an asset-based approach. So just to give you this context, we're a CSO, we're based in the UK. We do a lot of work with academia and organisations such as the OSCE, but we're also very much practitioner focused. So we work with young people directly in educational spaces from sort of the age of, in UK sort of year 5, so 10-year-olds, up to 25-year-olds in college settings, a little bit into university, but often out of educational spaces as well. So youth centres, faith places, and also street-based intervention work as well to some extent. So we work directly, there's big numbers because we do work in educational settings, so these might be assemblies, workshops, that kind of level of things, but also direct intervention with young people, a little bit less preventative and more intervention work, but still on, pre-convictions. We do work a little bit in prisons and have traditionally before, but we are very much in the preventative space. And as I say, we also work with practitioners because the wraparound work that we do involves not just bringing knowledge up, but the practice. How can we work together? And the same with members of the public and engaging with people. And it might be around anti-immigration riots and what that looked like for people on the ground as victims, but also perpetrators. It might be that a young person is engaging online, and we'll talk more about this, obviously, because that's today's interest, who are looking at a lot of AI-generated porn, that they're talking about terrorist porn, these kind of things, who might be of high complex needs, neurodiversity, those kind of things. So there's like a spectrum of work that we do there. So that's us, and that's the perspective I'm coming to you with. And I'm sure we all know this, but I can't help but say it every time because the context when we're working with young people and the conversations around AI and digital spaces are not in a vacuum, and it's crucial to us when we're engaging with them and understanding where they're coming from, just to go over that they are literally used to, especially the younger ones, they're used to living in a world where this is normal. The misinformation, the malinformation, the disinformation, the digital spaces are their social spaces. And therefore, when we talk about sort of Carnegie statistics around well-being and democratic well-being and what information do you trust and who do you trust and how do we navigate this sort of chaotic international environment, and also chaotic local environments where young people are worried about paying for their mum's electricity, where they're interested in asserting themselves, particularly boys and young men, as, how can we perform masculinity in a way that's going to get us respect? How can I earn a Rolex that's going to make me the man that I want to be? Those kind of questions that are in their head. This is the backdrop to these kind of conversations, and I think it's important that we root that world that they're navigating in order to understand where they're coming from and how we can best work with them. And particularly for minoritized communities, but not just. So people tend to think of the work that we do as very inner city based. We are in big cities across the UK, but also we've worked obviously with many other different countries. But what's interesting is the golden thread. It might be young people from the countryside who actually rely on online spaces just as much as the city young people, but also the golden threads if we talk to educationalists in Kazakhstan or Bosnia or North Macedonia or Austria or the UK, the golden threads are the same. The intersectional social harms are often the same. Engaging parents is difficult, and that's the same for everyone. So where I'm coming sometimes what seems to be a very hyper-local perspective, from our research and our practice, we know that this isn't the case. This is stuff that we're all facing, and that's what's interesting. And I thank very much Hidayah for convening these kind of conversations like that. So what we would say, and I know I have to be brief and I've always got too many slides, but AI isn't creating extremism. We know that, and we know that from the conversations this morning. But it is reshaping the conditions in which it emerges and how people address it. The speed and the scale and connectivity, coupled with the dynamic cultural generation that young people do, the words, the language, the attitudes, the latest influences, it's very high speed, and it makes for professionals, whether it's teachers or youth workers or CSOs or indeed policymakers, to be in a constant state of catch-up. At the moment we're making, for example, resources for teachers around misogyny, and that's very difficult because we'll make those and the world will have changed very rapidly by the time, for example, the Department for Education and us get round to launching these things. So the dynamism of things, particularly magnified by AI, is very important. And we see it magnifying existing risks, the existing risks that we've literally talked about in the PCV arena for decades. The social isolation, the economic vulnerability, exclusion from mainstream systems, where the social contract for the young people that we're working for feels very broken. We talk to them about extremely sophisticated online fraud that they might be committing, earning money that they feel justified to do because they need to face the kind of realities that their families face, that they face. The gaming, the immersion, the parasocial relationships, and the always online identities, these are the things that have magnified very human issues that we all know what we're talking about. Particularly this blurring of reality and their use of AI, as well as their experience of AI. Particularly conflict imagery, we see that at the moment, the propaganda of different actors, whether it's state actors or non-state actors. It's very interesting the way young people both consume it, create it, but also engage with it in quite cynical ways, which is interesting, and that's one of the assets that we think about. They're much better at spotting AI, they're much better at being quite cynical and questioning things in ways that perhaps sometimes we underestimate. The conspiracy ecosystem's massive in our world. It is absolutely and completely normal for the young people that we engage with across mainstream, across communities, to believe that the world, the Illuminati is running it, the kind of conspiracies that we used to sort of laugh about. Epstein stuff has come out. Suddenly QAnon looks quite a sensible conspiracy theory to people. And this is stuff that we have to recognise in order to help with this social impact. Also the use of humour and memification, I'm sure that's probably come up already, but that's huge for young people. The lines, what's a red line, and how we utilise this is very important. So just thinking quickly about the opportunity, we know young people are navigating this. We know that policy, and adults in particular, tend towards censorship, tend towards, for example, the conversations around social media bans. From a young people's perspective, that kind of all misses the point. It's not going to take away the problems. It might minimise some tools, perhaps, if we were lucky. But really, what we're dealing with is how to help them interpret content, test boundaries, and shape peer norms, because what's happening at the moment is that, as always, we're catching up while the people online, the use of AI is magnifying, and it's a problem. So we're thinking about risk protection and detection, but for us, the gap is treating young people as subjects of prevention, not agents. So we're interested in their agency. And one of the things we do a lot is co-creation. And I know it's one of these words, a bit like safe spaces, that gets bandied around. But for us, safe spaces are candid ones that young people can come and tell us the kind of things they're getting up to, what they're looking at, and why they want to engage in these things. But also how that looks like from a preventative space. So what I would say is this limited youth participation in solutions. We're still all doing, I would argue, a lot of top-down solution planning, where actually they are the ones that can really help us do that. I think that's probably, I can speak for more, but that's probably 5 minutes. But I'd really like that to open out into our discussion later and to think about the kind of work that we are doing, particularly around that asset-based approach and this intersectional harm, where AI comes into these issues across the board, whether it's the fraud, the extremism, the gangs who are also intersecting in with this. So we've got organised crime, young people engaging with that, at the same time they are engaging in sort of these kind of online extremist elements. So we don't see the PCV arena as separate to that. We see it as very much embedded throughout, and the digital space is the space in which we're operating. So thank you very much.